Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Wealthy Dentist Podcast. I'm your host, Ward Powell. And if you're a dentist looking to crack the code on how to grow your practice and dominate in this space, then stick around. You're in the right place. Every week, we're sitting down with some amazing dentists who are doing incredible things in their businesses. We're talking about everything from how they keep their teams loyal and dedicated to how they stay ahead of the game in this crazy, fast-changing industry. You'll hear about hacks like using virtual assistants to free up your time, strategies to make more sales with less effort, and even mind-blowing stories about patents and inventions that are changing the industry as we know it. And it's not just about growing your practice, it's also about finding out what works from a clinical perspective. Whether you're just starting or you're ready to scale to the next level, there's something here for you. So buckle up, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive in. I want to thank you so much, Matt Ornstein, for coming in and speaking to us today. I know you have a whole lot of books you've written, a whole lot of companies that you own, and your focus is on dentists. In particular, you've written several books on the area. I just want to, open up the channels of communication, if you will, and let you have at it. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So tell me, what got you started with wanting to work with dentists, and how long has this been?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's almost 4 years now. My business partner and I own 8 companies. Most of them are real estate and construction related companies, but we also own a car wash roll up where we buy automated car washes, improve the efficiencies and profitability of those car washes with the intent after the business reaches a certain EBITDA number to sell the business for very compelling profit. And one of my business partners knew it was friends with a dentist that had started 8 dental practices and sold those dental practices to a DSO. And he made quite a lot of money. I mean, it was probably in the range of $20 million where he
That was
sold.
the dentist that sold, you mean?
Yeah, when the dentist sold his 8 practices, he sold them for like $20 million. And I met with that dentist, and the dentist was explaining to me the business of dentistry and combining practices and growing EBITDA and what type of multiples dental practice or group could be sold based off of EBITDA multiples and how that mathematics worked. And we talked a lot about the economics of dentistry, the demand for dentistry. And an opportunity came up for my business partner and I to buy an established small DSO that had 20 dental offices. We bought that, and we've grown it now to almost 75 dental offices in a little under 4 years. And we took the EBITDA from $7 million a year when we bought it to we're just shy of $23 million of EBITDA now.
In 4 years.
And we increased the value of that company from 70 million when we bought it. If we sold today, we likely would get around 275 million for it. So very interesting business model in a wonderful industry that supports the oral health, which then affects the overall health of the human body
Sure.
in a very, very meaningful way. So that's what got me into dentistry. First as a business, and then it's a business investment for us. But I have to tell you, I love the people in dentistry.
Yeah.
They're the best.
Yeah.
They're the best.
Yeah. Agree. So wow, it's such a phenomenal, compelling story about, that jump from 0 to 100, if you will. Uh, Tell us about EBITDA. Give us a little bit about just your book that you written, the handbook that you've written about EBITDA and how it helps dentists. You got a book on that.
Yeah. So that was my first book on EBITDA related to dentistry. And the book is called The Dental EBITDA Handbook. It's really short. I had read a couple books on EBITDA that were like 250 pages long. I mean, it took every bit of self-discipline to get through those books because they're so boring. And I said, most of the dentists that I talked to, because I also own a dental brokerage firm that helps dentists sell their practices, almost almost no dentists really know what EBITDA is. They might have heard of the word, but they didn't really understand it. So I said, you know what? I can distill 250 pages down to 20 pages and communicate it more clearly. So I wrote the Dental EBITDA Handbook. EBITDA is EBITDA. I think it's a word that private equity and investment banks made up to confuse people. I really believe that. But EBITDA stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Um, my book's available on Amazon for $10, but you can get it for free at the Dental Pitch Brokerage website. You can download it for free. I'll give the website later if you allow me to.
Absolutely.
In like 12 minutes, you can read this book and clearly understand what EBITDA is and how it affects the value of your dental practice. And if you don't understand EBITDA, you will never understand what your dental practice is worth. And it's a fairly kind of a complex topic, but in a nutshell, EBITDA is how much net profit did your dental practice make before you paid any interest to a bank if you have a loan that you've taken out with the bank. So it's net profit before interest payments on a loan.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the book clearly explains it, very clearly explains what your dental practice is worth based off of your EBITDA. And as your EBITDA goes up, the value of your dental practice goes up, not in a linear fashion, Ward. It goes up in an exponential fashion. Exponential fashion.
Mhm.
It's a very interesting concept, and once you understand it, you can realize that for every extra dollar of net income your dental practice makes, when you sell your dental practice, that every dollar of extra net income will give you somewhere between 5 and 10 additional dollars on the sales price of your practice. So if you increase your EBITDA by 100,000 a year, when you sell your practice, that's going to translate to an additional 500,000 or $1 million of profit in your pocket on top of what your practice was worth before you improved your net profits or your EBITDA.
And how do they calculate that? I mean, how do they, what kind of system do they use to like predict those type of numbers? I mean, how do you get that if you go from, a couple 100,000 to 500,000 to 1 million? Where does that number come from?
Well, EBITDA, like I said, is just basically net income, right?
Right,
So if you have a dental practice that's doing making a net profit of 200,000 a year, and then
right.
you bring in more patients or you're doing more high dollar treatments,
Mhm.
and your net income goes from 200 to $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
EBITDA is always multiplied by a certain number. It's called an EBITDA multiple.
Okay.
So if your EBITDA is $500,000 or less per year,
Mhm.
that type of dental practice will sell for 5 times your EBITDA. Once you get above $1 million of EBITDA, instead of selling for 5 times your EBITDA, buyers will pay you around 6 times your EBITDA.
Oh,
Yeah,
now we
when you
get it
get
clear.
yeah, so
Okay.
then if you can get to 3 million of EBITDA, there are buyers who'll pay you 7 times your EBITDA. If you get
Wow.
to 10 million of EBITDA, there are plenty of buyers that'll pay you 12 times your EBITDA. So not only does your EBITDA go up and the value of your practice go up, but the value of your practice rises exponentially as your
Five,
EBITDA
six times.
rises.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Wow.
very interesting. It's like instead of 1 plus 1 being 2, 1 plus 1 can be 5. 1 plus 1 can be 10.
Mm.
It's fascinating.
And how often do you see, in your side of the business, you said you saw also have this other company that you deal with
pitch, dental pitch brokerage, when you brokering those deals, um, how often do you see those exponential numbers come in for dentists, and dentists kind of like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting that. But I guess even before then, you kind of like tamper, if you will, them with the idea that this is what is, this is what you could be looking at.
Yeah, that's a great question. Great question, Ward. We have about 60 buyers that are actively looking to buy dental practices, and we track all of the sales that we can. So we have a really great internal database that lets us know that if your EBITDA is under a million, plenty of buyers that'll pay you 5 times your EBITDA. If it's between a million and, you know, 2 million, they'll pay you 6 times your EBITDA. If your EBITDA is 3 million, you have a high probability of getting 7 times your EBITDA. So we track that relentlessly to make sure we have the most up-to-date data on that. And we can take a look at a dentist's financials and let a dentist know based off of your EBITDA or your net income, this is a type of multiple you would get, and this is a very realistic price that you can sell your dental practice or group for.
Okay. Okay. So are there any like uh like if you could name them, what would be like the five most important financials that a client or a dental practice should, I mean, what should they have? What should they know that they should have in place? The five most important. If you could name those, what would that be?
So I would call those key performance indicators,
Mm-hmm.
KPIs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to take a 10-second step back. I just finished my second book, and it is phenomenal. I'll have it fully published in about a week. It's going to retail for $100 on Amazon, but we're giving it away for free on the Dental Pitch website. You can download it for free,
Mm-hmm.
or if you want a hard copy, you can just email me. I'll mail it to you for free. Or if I see you at a dental conference, I'm giving them out for free. And I have a whole chapter on KPIs, key performance indicators.
Yes.
And these are the things that a dentist or an owner of dental practices should be monitoring, religiously.
Okay.
Um, One of the things is uh, daily production and yearly production,
Mm-hmm.
and then number two is collections. How much you actually collecting. So if you're doing $1 million a year in production, but you only collect $900,000, then that $900,000, is more important than your production. Obviously, you'd like to collect 100% of your production, but insurance companies will jam you here and there. Sometimes patients don't pay. A real good industry standard is to collect 95% of your production. So if you do $1 million worth of treatment a year and you can collect 950,000 of it, you're doing really well.
Okay.
Obviously, the goal is 100%. No one does that. I think the
Right. Right.
best
That's
of the
realistic.
best, 98% is probably where you're going to top out. So
Right.
you got production, which you should track daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly. Then how much do you actually collect?
Mm-hmm.
And that should be tracked. It doesn't need to be tracked, daily, but I think you have to track that monthly and
Mm-hmm.
quarterly and annually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another great metrics is production per patient. For every
Oh,
patient that's coming in, how much production are you generating, right? And it depends what type of dentistry you're doing, whether it's general, ortho, specialty, pedo, but you can track your production per patient and see if there's room for improvement. And if your production per patient is lower than it should be, um, maybe there's some other areas that you can improve on. Obviously, all within standard of care, right?
right. Right. Exactly.
Never ever would ever recommend or approve of overtreating a patient. But if you're undertreating a patient, that's not good for the patient, right? You want to have proper patient care. So production per patient. It's also really important to track production per doctor, right? If you've got 3 doctors in your office and one doctor's producing 3 times more than the other 2, something's not right. Something's not right. Why are those 2 doctors producing so much less than your high performing doctor? So that often opens up the opportunity for additional training for the other dentists. So you want to optimize your production per provider, per doctor. Same thing with hygienists. You want to track production per hygienist. And if you say you have eight hygienists and 2 of them are producing very low production per patient per hygienist, you can take a look and meet with a hygienist and find out, what are you doing? What are you not doing? Do you need some more training? Maybe you can shadow some of our high performing hygienists, and assuming proper patient care is being delivered,
Right.
you can learn how to increase production. And at the end of the day, it all goes down to how much net profit or EBITDA is your dental practice or dental group making. Because all of those top 4 things are going to translate into EBITDA or net profit.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, there's probably a number 6, and that's tracking your schedule every day,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
every week, every month, and making sure that schedule is full. Got to keep the schedule full.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I'm sure that's going to be nuggets that people listening are going to take with them and make sure that they follow those guidelines. I really appreciate that, and I'm sure they will too. So tell us a little bit. What's the name of the book that you just finished? Tell us a little bit more about that, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. This one's a little bit longer. It's 75 pages and 19 chapters. But 5 of the chapters in the book are the exact same chapters that are in the Dental EBITDA Handbook.
Oh,
So
okay.
if they've already read that, they can just skip those chapters. They already understand EBITDA. It's called The Art of the Dental Deal.
Okay.
How to grow and sell your dental practice for millions. And it goes over everything, every aspect of EBITDA that's in the Dental EBITDA Handbook. Then it has chapters on KPIs, best practices, how to buy dental practices with no money down. It explains bank financing and how to do mathematical calculations to make sure that you're using a safe amount of debt if you're buying practices to grow. It talks about de novo, which means opening a new practice versus buying practices. There's a whole chapter on buying practices with seller financing, so you don't need a bank loan. There's a chapter on the importance of proper legal representation. I mean, it's just jam-packed full of information.
Oh, wow. And yeah, and information is power if we take it and use it, right?
Yeah. And there's one other chapter too on preparing your dental practice or group for sale and what the whole process looks like from a dentist perspective. When you decide that you want to sell your dental practice, how to do it the most effective way so you get the highest price and best terms. I always do recommend using a dental broker because you're going to end up with a substantially higher price and better terms if you use a seasoned broker that can put your dental practice in front of several dozen buyers and create a competitive bidding environment. I talk about stuff in there called quality of earnings, which is an official analysis of what your EBITDA is instead of just relying on what your CPA thinks your EBITDA is. Because generally most CPAs do not know how to calculate EBITDA correctly.
Oh, wow.
So the book covers everything you need to know to understand EBITDA, how to maximize the value of your practice, what you can do to improve collections, what you can do to improve new patient acquisition. I've got chapters on artificial intelligence and modern technology and digital workflow. I mean, the book's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. It really is. I mean, if you apply what's in the book, I think anyone can increase the value of their dental practice or group by millions of dollars.
Right. Now, when you spoke earlier about uh, finding out exactly the evaluation, and that the accountant may or may not know exactly how to do that. Do you all have a team that does that for the client?
So yes, we have in-house. We have two in-house attorneys. Our managing director has his MBA, and we always recommend that we have two or three CPA firms that specialize in dental EBITDA, and you can get a full analysis of what your EBITDA is. Generally, it's around $5,000 for one practice. If you own multiple practices, the price will be higher, but there are discounts. You're not going to have to pay $5,000 for each practice, but around $5,000 if you have one practice. And the CPA firms that we work with understand every nuance of EBITDA, what things should be included in EBITDA, what things should be taken out of EBITDA. There are certain things called adjustments or add backs that will give you a really clear picture of what your EBITDA is. If you don't know what your EBITDA is, you will not get the highest price for your dental practice. You have to know what your EBITDA is to make sure that you're getting a fair price for your dental practice. You have to.
Right. Now, I know you mentioned, 5 or 6 KPIs already. You did say there were certain pieces within the EBITDA calculation that people definitely do not want to have in there. What would that be?
That's another great question. So, generally, like most business owners, dentists run a lot of expenses through their dental office because they can get a business write-off, a tax write-off. They may have their dental practice leasing their car, paying for travel to go to conferences, um, uh, business equipment that won't have to necessarily stay with the dental practice. So those are expenses that would be added back to your EBITDA, right? Because if you sold your dental practice, the buyer's not going to have to pay the lease payments on your car or your car insurance or the gas or
Right.
repairs on your car.
Right.
Once you sell your dental practice, the buyer's not going to have to pay your travel expenses if you go to dental conferences or continuing education courses that you might spend $10,000 or $20,000 a year on. You may have dental consultants that you're hiring to optimize your dental practice and the profitability. You might be paying $30,000 a year for that. And once you sell your practice, the buyer's not going to continue engaging those consultants. So those expenses that diminish your net profit each year can be added back to your EBITDA. So your EBITDA would be higher and translate into a meaningfully higher sales price for you.
So you definitely want to separate yourself from something like that, right?
Yes.
Wow, 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 wow. Yeah, so
Now
what
I want to add, you don't have to stop allocating those compliant expenses
mhm,
to your dental business.
mhm.
But you have to understand that those expenses will not be incurred by the buyer. So your real EBITDA is higher than what you may think your EBITDA is or what your accountant tells you your EBITDA is. It's called an adjustment or an add back.
Mm, adjustment on that.
Yes.
Okay, so wow,
It's
man,
a lot of stuff, Ward. I know it's a
this is
lot.
just blowing my mind. So okay, so here's okay. Now, is there a certain type of corporation setup that a dentist should have? Should they have an S corp? Should they have a C corp? Should it be a partnership? What is one of the? I know this is probably not in your wheelhouse in expertise, but I just wanted to figure out what has been your experience of those that have a corporation, a C corp, as opposed to an S corp, or partnership, a limited partnership. I mean, like, what should a dentist look at in terms of that kind of setup, making sure that they're going to take the best route to get the best uh, payback, if you will, when they're ready to set sunset?
Yeah, another great question. It's my opinion that the type of corporate ownership structure will likely not affect the sales price
Okay.
to the dentist. Um, but from my experience,
Mhm.
owning a business in an LLC, a limited liability company,
Mhm.
allows a business owner to compliantly write off many, many business expenses, and then all of the net income from an LLC, it just flows right through. It's called a flow through to your personal income tax return.
Mhm.
When you have an S corp or a C corp, in my opinion, for a dentist, in my opinion, and I'm going to caveat by saying, please check with your CPA on this
And your attorney, right?
and your attorney. But
Right.
but a C corp or an S corp, those result in double taxation, meaning that the corporation has to pay income taxes, and then when you distribute the money out to yourself, you're paying another layer of income taxes, and that does not make sense for a dentist. You don't want to be paying taxes twice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
That was
yeah.
a great question.
Yeah. Okay. And then I'm thinking too, when, of course, they may have saved money aside from, their practice being or taking the lion's share of, let's say their retirement. How does retirement plans tie into the EBITDA process, or are they associated? Do they associate that with that?
Well, that's another great question. I'm glad you asked that. That's very important. So generally speaking, a dentist's largest financial asset is going to be their practice or their group if they own multiple practices. So um, when you sell, if everything goes well, a dentist can expect a very significant uh, uh, influx of cash.
Hmm.
So I'm a firm believer in hiring a very competent uh, wealth manager, wealth advisor
Hmm.
to manage the money when you sell a significant asset.
Hmm.
Um, if that's going to be you're doing that one time or multiple times, but you're going to have to pay income taxes. Can't get around that. But most people in general don't have experience in investing assets. So I'm a big believer in hiring a well-established, competent wealth advisor or investment advisor to make sure that the money that you have that you're investing is going to provide the proper income for you to retire, if that's your goal, to retire and live comfortably or live really well for the rest of your life.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. Okay. So, uh, does does how in that process, how does taxes play a role in that scenario?
You are asking phenomenal questions. Um, so the buyers of dental practices will actually effectuate something called an asset purchase agreement. It's just a term, but what it means in layman's terms is the buyers are buying the assets of your business, and as long as you've owned that dental office for 12 months, all of the profits that you make and the money coming in from the sale of your dental practice should be taxed at a long-term capital gain, not as ordinary income. And that rate is significantly lower. Right now, it's around 20%
Right.
versus
30, 40.
39.6%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right.
yeah. So your personal income, right off the bat to the IRS, 40% is gone. And taxes, when you sell your business, it'll be taxed at a long-term capital gain, which would be 20%. So that's a nice thing about selling your business is you get a tax rate that's substantially lower than your active income tax rate, ordinary income tax rate.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And then if they're getting hit for 15, 20% on capital gains, we're definitely looking at trying to make sure that they don't get into some type of investment vehicle that's going to increase that. When you say go above that number, you know what I'm saying? That 20%.
Well, the dentists are going to have to pay their long-term capital gain.
Yeah, after they pay their long-term capital
Yeah,
gains, right? That's 120, that's that 20% that they pay. But
yeah,
then beyond that, they don't want to go and do something that's going to repeat it. In other words, um, a lot of people get involved with vehicles that's going to put them into the same kind of scenario, if you will, like
yeah.
another 20% capital gain situation. Is there something out there that you all suggest that I don't know. Again, this might be out of your out of the spectrum of your expertise, but I'm just wondering to what extent is that conversation being had? Because that seemed to me to be something that they definitely want to know whether they have a choice not to keep that same tax. Goes, okay, let me just put it this way. We want to keep realized gains at the minimum, right? And unrealized gains, we're going to maximize. So how can we make sure that the client, or are we putting the information out to the client to let them know that, hey, we want to make sure that you're going to get yourself in a situation where you're not going to be exposed to much realized gain, because the fact of the matter is you want to keep as much um, as you want, as you grow to yourself, correct?
Yeah, if I hear you correctly, when a dentist sells their dental practice or group, the um, income from the sale is likely going to be taxed at a long-term capital gain, which is
Yes.
a favorable tax rate. Then whatever you have left, if you choose to invest it, um, ideally you want to have your investment income as tax efficient as possible. And that as I said, I'm a firm believer in hiring a good wealth manager because there are different investment opportunities. Some of the income from your investment portfolio is taxed at ordinary income. Some of it can be tax-free if you invest in municipal bonds or opportunity zones, things like that. If you buy equities or stock, as long as you hold that for more than 12 months and then you sell it for a gain, that gain is taxed at the lower long-term capital gain
Right.
tax rate. But
Mhm.
that's a discussion for a dentist to have with a dentist wealth advisor.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm going to say that's not in my wheelhouse to give advice on. I would absolutely defer to someone that knows the ins and outs of the tax code and the different type of investments as they relate to your tax bracket.
Yeah. So you got me excited when you started saying EBITDA, and I know that's part of the equation is taxes. A lot of people do put their money in retirement plans and in brokerage accounts. And I just wanted to see how much information are they actually getting in the process of making making that type of move. That's all. But thank you so much for that. That definitely sheds a whole lot of light
Yeah, I
on.
do. I do think that, generally speaking, the fees charged by a really good wealth advisor or investment manager uh, pay for themselves, no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
And and a good wealth manager, investment advisor should um, should set up a balanced portfolio that's in alignment with your risk tolerance, right? If you
Yes.
look, I want to do everything possible to not have my investment portfolio value go down.
Right.
You know, they can put
Exactly.
in they can put you in more conservative investments and a good balanced portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say, you know what, I'm okay if the value of my investment account, goes down a little bit here and there, as long as in the long run it's going up. And you can have a portfolio that has different investments where you might get in a higher annual rate of return on your money.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you this from my experience and in my opinion, you have to take on more risk to have an opportunity to have a higher annual return on your investment.
Mm-hmm.
So, it depends on the individual, depends on their age,
Right.
depends on how much income they need
Right.
coming in to live the lifestyle they want.
Correct.
And again, I defer to a
Yes.
tax advisor or a wealth advisor for that. That's not my wheelhouse.
I understand. So, the age, um, what is the average age you've seen of the dentist that's ready to move into another direction with their lives? Uh, what were your thoughts on that? I mean, all of
Yeah.
these different deals you're doing. I was just wondering if do you all track that?
Yeah. What I'm seeing is generally speaking, the dentists that are selling their dental practices, if they own one practice, tend to be above the age of 55. A lot of them are 65 and up, and I'm going to sell this and then I'm retiring completely. Where you see younger dentists selling, like if they're 35, 40, 45 years old, 50 years old, is when those dentists have multiple offices and they can sell their dental group for, 10, 15, 20 million dollars. I see more younger dentists doing that than dentists that are 60, 65, 70. I'm a very big proponent if you're a younger dentist, and I'll define younger as 35 to 50.
Right.
This is my opinion only, but if you can either buy or start a dental practice and build it up enough where maybe you've got 1.5 million in collections and you have an EBITDA of $300,000 a year, and you can sell that for $1.5 million, and you can do that, or maybe your EBITDA is higher, you can get $1.5 million, $2 million, put that money in your pocket after taxes, and then just do it again and do it again and do it again. That's a really beautiful way to build wealth if you're a younger dentist and you have the energy to do it. Because if you sell your first practice at 35 and then you open up a brand new one and you've got it rocking and rolling 3 years later, you sell it again, put another 1.5 million, 2 million in your pocket. Do it again, do it again, do it again. And by the time you're 50, 55, 60, it's well within a dentist's reach if they start selling at 35 to have a net worth of 20, $30 million.
Mm,
If you wait until you're 65 or 60 and say, you know what, I want to sell. I had one office my whole life. It provided a great income, which is wonderful.
mhm.
And then I want to retire. I don't want to work anymore. And you sell your practice, then that's your last bite at the apple.
Yeah, right. Wow. Okay. So, all right. I can see that. So then this is definitely something that the younger dentists should think about. You know, For sure, for sure.
And it depends. Like I said, everyone's different. Some
Mhm.
people just want dentists make a lot of money. I mean, if you're a productive dentist, you're making a really nice income and living a very nice lifestyle. So some people just say, I want to work 4 days a week and make 350 grand a year, and I'm happy to do that for the rest of my life, and that's great, and I admire those people. Some people might say, look, I want to be worth $20 million by the time I'm 55. Okay, well, if that's the case, start a practice or buy a practice, max out your schedule. It might take you, 2.5 years, three years to do that. Then sell it, put a couple $1,000,000 in your pocket, do it again, do it again, do it again. Well, if you're selling a practice and making $2 million every 3 years, how long does that take before you're worth 15, $20 million?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. That's a great look at a way to grow your dollars. I guess that's a part of your new book, How to Build and Sell Dental
Yes.
Practice. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. So we didn't really talk about the early Matt. So tell us a little bit about your the early years of Matt and how you become this, this serial entrepreneur. What motivated that?
Well, I got out of college and I went to work for the Home Depot
Mhm.
as a department manager and then an assistant manager. I was getting paid $27,000 a year when I was, I think, 22 or 23, and they would work us at least
Wow,
80 hours a week.
that is crazy.
No overtime pay, nothing.
Oh my God.
Um, yeah, it was rough. And after about a year and a half of that, I said, this is definitely not for me.
Right.
So I took a job in sales and lived very frugally. I bought a house that had it was 3 bedrooms and then an in-law suite. I still remember my mortgage amount. It was $518 a month.
Wow.
Yeah, I rented one of the rooms to one of my friends for 250, and then I rented the 2 bedroom in-law suite below the garage for 300 a month, and it had a separate entrance. So in rent, I was bringing in 550 a month, and my mortgage payment was 518. So I was living there for free.
Right.
And I took all my extra money, and after work, at night, on the weekends, I'd go out and find houses to buy in Atlanta, and I was buying these 2 bedroom, 1 bath houses for $20,000. I bought one. I renovated it. I didn't do the work myself. I hired the painters and the floor guys and the cabinet guys. Put in another 20 grand, and then that's so I had 40,000 in. I sold it for 80 grand approximately.
Mm.
So I was like, wow, on one house in my spare time, I made as much as I'm making all year. And I did it again and again. And then
Yeah.
probably about 3 years later, I was making more money flipping houses than I was at my sales job. So I left my sales job and then grew that business where I was doing about 35 homes a year. And then I got into larger real estate projects and bigger projects. Um, and then just kind of kept learning and going from there. And, my business partner and I own a home building company. We own a construction company. We own an industrial warehouse development company, land zoning and entitlement company. So that's how it started. And for some reason, I like the flexibility of my time. I mean, I'm 56 now, but I worked 80 hours a week from the time I was 22 until I was 50. 80
Wow.
hours a week. But I could get by on like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. So,
Really?
like on the weekends, I'd get up at 5 a.m., work till noon, hang out with my friends for the rest of the day. Same thing Sunday. Start at 5 a.m., work till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and then enjoy the day. But my energy definitely dwindled as I got older.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any family?
Um, I mean, just my birth family, mom,
Okay.
dad. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I can see, man, 80 hours. That's 80 hours from 22 to 50. That's a long time, man. Doing the same thing over and over again. That's sheer discipline, will, gut, grind, you know. That's all I'm
I will
saying.
say I enjoyed it,
Yeah.
and yeah, I enjoyed it. If I had to do it again, I would not have put in that many hours. I would have probably stuck to like 40 hours a week and taken a lower path, but it is what it is.
Uh, yeah. So, what has been one of your major uh, challenges throughout your practice, throughout your career? What would you say was one of maybe your most challenging periods in your business?
I would say it's always that voice in your head, the self-doubt and fear. When I started when I was 29 years old, I did a large real estate project. I'd never done one that size, and I had to borrow $4.5 million from a bank, and I was not worth anything close to that. And I knew if this project failed, I would be filing for bankruptcy and be completely destitute. And it was frightening. The next project I did, I think I borrowed $5.5 million.
Wow.
Um,
First one was successful, obviously.
yeah, and they were, like I own a DSO too. Like I said, I think we're right about 75 dental offices now,
Mm.
and we owe the bank over $100 million. I think it's 100 million, 105 million, and that's I have to tell you that's scary, and it's stressful. Um, if something goes horribly wrong, I'm wiped out. I'm financially smashed. So I would say, self-doubt has probably been, and yeah, self-doubt. Like, man, what if this doesn't go right? Am I able to do this? Do I have the skill to do this? But I will say, like, in every case, just intellectual thinking overcame the self-doubt and persistence and hard work. I mean, I got knocked down many times, man. Like, metaphorically speaking, I've been punched in the gut too many times that I can count, knocked down on the ground, bloody and beaten and wanting to give up. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And I'm like,
Right.
the voice in my head's always been the same. Stand up, stand up.
I love it.
But,
I love it.
people that meet me think like, oh, this guy's fearless and he doesn't have anxiety. And that is not the case. I can't even count. You added up the days of anxiety and sleepless nights I've had. You couldn't even count them.
Oh my goodness, man.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Wow. But I love that, man. I love it. That is, yeah, I can remember some years ago seeing the end of a game and one of these coaches, the guy's down there and he was down there and I think it was Houston. He says, never underestimate a heart of a champion. Oh my God. That was just riveting. They just won the championship. you know. And this
Yeah.
guy, he says that at the end because, when the odds are against you, you got to keep fighting.
Yeah. I do firmly believe, like, and I didn't make this up, but as long as I'm still breathing and alive, I have a chance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yes,
and
sir.
I can tell you, I don't care how hard something knocks me down, knocks the wind out of me.
Hmm.
I always stand back up. Now I may be crying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I may be nauseous.
Already.
I may be shaking with fear. But I always get back up and say, you know what? Tomorrow morning, I'm gonna give it 100% again.
That's awesome. That's
And
great.
I've failed at a lot of stuff, Ward. I mean, I've had the first house I did in real estate when I was like 22, the very first house. I bought it for 27,000. I personally worked on it for 8 months, and I sold it
Wow.
for I think I bought it for 17,000, put 10,000 in it, and I ended up only selling it for $100 more than my total cost basis. And the guy tried to jam me down like even lower, below 27. He offered me like 25 grand. I was only 22. I showed him every receipt I had, and I'm like, man, I
There's
worked
no
on
way
this.
I'm going. Yeah.
I worked on this for 8 months, every Saturday and Sunday and after work. I'm like, I need to make something on it, man, something.
$100.
He was like 55 years old, and he smiled at me, and he was like, damn. He goes, how about 27,100? He offered me $100 more than I had in it. And I remember saying, thank you. And and I mean, I bought, I've done real estate stuff and not made money on it. I've lost money. So, you know, you win some, you lose some, and
That's right.
you win more. But I will tell you though, there is a way. If you're a dentist, there's a way to do dentistry and understand the business of dentistry where you will not fail. You will not fail as long as you're willing to work.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that, I mean, really, there are a bunch of people out there in the dental community that don't have any feel with the work. I think the guidance is important, just
Yeah,
knowing which way to go. And if a person has spent all their life uh, figuring a certain area out, and then they have to do the same, commit the same type of work effort with something totally out of their warehouse, it becomes challenging.
absolutely. And it's scary. I mean, it's scary. Like it's scary, man. I
Yeah.
trust me. People look at me and they meet me and they think this guy is fearless. Not true.
That's so funny, man. Well, I appreciate your honesty, bro. I mean, really, I mean, that is just like letting people know, hey, man, this is the way it is. And, and you got to be able to accept that, because that's the road I've been through. I've been down that road. And, you got to be able to have the stomach for it.
Yeah. And I can't even count the number of people that have told me throughout my life that will never work. You don't have any experience in that. You'll never be able to do that. You're going to fail. And a lot of this, unfortunately, comes from people you're closest to. Oftentimes your family or people
Yeah,
that you think are your friends,
that's right.
they will
That's
just,
so true.
they'll give you the gut punch that really makes you doubt yourself.
Yes.
And that's where you have to sit down with yourself and, I and really analyze it analytically and say, you know what, the numbers make sense, and I have the knowledge or the skill. What I don't know, I can learn, and as long as I'm willing to work hard and not give up, I can do this. But
Yeah,
sometimes it's tough. People try to break you down, unfortunately.
right. And like you said, it can be somebody that's, I mean, the closest to you, the closest to you.
Yeah, I'm not naming any names,
Right,
but
exactly. They know who they are. So what has been one of your high achievements? I know you probably don't want to talk about that, but help us with that. I mean, because you've been through this grind and people are, I mean, they're like, wow, that really? But the things that kind of keep, I mean, it could be the smallest thing actually, that kind of kept that smile on your face and kept you moving. I mean, one of your highest achievements, at least for you, your standard. It doesn't have to be, this enormous amount of money, but or whatever. But what would that have? What would that be?
well, I can tell you, it's two things. Um, Neither have anything to do with money or business, and I can say that sincerely. I used to get. I'm 6'3" now, and I weigh 225. but I skipped a grade and a half in elementary school,
Mhm.
and that's straight A. So, I would get physically bullied because I was the smallest kid in the class. People would tease me because I had high grades. And then I got bullied so bad in eighth grade physically that I said, I'm not doing this. I can't take this anymore. I joined the wrestling team.
Mhm.
And my first season, I lost all 9 wrestling matches
Wow.
and got pinned all 9. Like it couldn't have been
Oh,
any worse.
wow.
Yeah. And my father, he was a college champion wrestler, and I remember he pulled me aside at the end of the season, and he said to me, um, "You're an embarrassment to him." And I remember he said, "You suck at wrestling. You're never going to be any good, and you should quit." And I remember going up to my room and I cried myself to sleep. It was horrible. Uh, and I don't know what happened, man, but before, like the next day, something in me said, you know what? I'm not going to use the foul language, but I said, I'm not going to quit, and I'm going to show him. And I said, I'm not going to quit. In my sophomore year, I lost the first 5 matches. So it was 14 losses in a row. And then magically I won a match. And then I won the next 3 matches. So my sophomore year, I was
3-1 or something. One.
like actually I was 5 wins, 4 losses.
Okay.
And my junior year, I was 15 wins and 1 loss and 4th in the state. And my senior year, I ended up winning the state championships against a 2-time defending state champion.
Oh my God.
So, and I was 2 years younger than him as well.
Wow.
So that was I would say like the, for me that's the proudest moment of my life. And I learned a lot from being able to get your butt kicked and
Right. Getting back
standing
up.
back up and trying
That's
again.
right.
The other thing that I'm like super proud of is I started a 501c3 scholarship organization in 2009,
Uh-huh.
and I raised a bunch of money from investors that were investing in my real estate company, reinvested those proceeds, and made some good and really good investments in real estate projects we were doing. Anyway, the long story short of it is my 501c3 has put over 65 kids all through college debt free, most of whom would never have even gone to college without the scholarships that I gave them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and some of these kids, oh my God, dude, if you heard the stories of their family life and the mental, physical, et cetera, type of abuse that these kids have been through with no hope left, like no hope. And then they graduated college and now, they have families and they have good jobs. That is my greatest accomplishment, I would say, in my life. And I also would say, all credit to God, all credit to God on that.
Here, man. Here. Well, the humility just burst at the seams with you guys. You just and I know you're just a walking accomplishment in a whole lot of ways. And we just we appreciate you coming out and being vulnerable and uh and skillful in your conversations with EBITDA and just life in general. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, my pleasure. If you don't mind, real quick, maybe you'll leave this in the podcast, but um, one of the companies I love is the brokerage business. So it's called Dental Pitch Brokerage. It's a sell side brokerage company, which
Okay.
means we only represent sellers of dental practices or dental groups.
Okay.
My business partner is a wonderful human being. His name is Elijah Desmond.
Yeah.
That guy has the biggest heart of anyone I've ever
He
met.
does. He really
Uh,
does.
our website is www.dentalpitch, Pitch, brokerage.com.
Mhm.
And if you visit, if you're looking to sell your dental practice, conversations are free. We'd love to chat with you. And my first book is on there for free download, and in less than 2 weeks, The Art of the Dental Deal will be available for a free download on the website as well.
Mhm. So do the people that you sign up for your book to get your book, do they have to be a dentist? Could they be in the dental field, or I mean, how does that work?
And anyone can get it for free.
Okay, okay. Well, you hear that? You
All
heard
right.
that right here on the Wealthy Dentist Podcast. Uh, if someone wants to contact you, Matt, how would they go about doing that?
Um, Phone numbers on the website.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so they can send an email or call the number.
But can you say that website again?
It's www.dentalpitchbrokerage, DENTAL, P as in Paul, ITCH, brokerage, BROKERAGE.com.
Okay.
My email is Matt, MATT, at dentalpitchbrokerage.com.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time again to share your information, your journey with us, and have a great rest of the afternoon.
Thanks, Ward. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. And anybody listening, I just want to say, chase your dreams. Please don't listen to any doubters or naysayers. If you want it bad enough, you can do it. I know you can do it. So please believe in yourself.
Awesome.
The Wealthy Dentist Podcast is built on connections, opportunities, and meaningful conversations that help jumpstart careers and boost the ROI on your business. Is there a topic you're passionate about, or someone in the dental community who should share their story with us? We want to hear from you. Email your suggestions to the wealthydentistpodcast@gmail.com, and let's create content that informs, inspires, and uplifts the dental world. Your ideas could spark our next big conversation. Let's make it happen. I'm Ward Powell, your host at the Wealthy Dentist Podcast, thanking you for being a part of our journey.